Hey there, Greg Ragland again for another video presentation and training. And this one is on executive presence and how you can develop a firmer, more commanding executive presence in all of your interactions at work so that you have more confidence, authority, and poise. And so I'm going to first start off by, rhetorically asking the question, are you familiar with the concept of executive presence? And I think for most of us, it's a pretty intuitive concept, right? Executives have a presence about them that's palpable. And so I first heard the term executive presence last year, but I've always intuitively understood and noticed that executives have a presence about them. In fact, I first noticed this when I started my career as a CPA at KPMG back in 1994. I noticed that executives spoke at a higher level than other professionals in meetings. They use smarter, more precise words to articulate their ideas and lead. And this observation and realization was one of the reasons I named my first vocabulary training program Executive Vocabulary. And I'll talk more about that here in a second, but I want to, really dig deep into this concept of executive presence, because once I learned that this was an actual skill that could be developed and honed, I knew that vocabulary training could play an integral role in helping aspiring professionals develop a stronger, more commanding executive presence. So I immersed myself in all the research, and I read an article in Harvard Business Review titled Deconstructing Executive Presence, Fortune, 5 Steps to Achieving Extraordinary Executive Presence, Forbes, Executive Presence, How to Be Taken More Seriously as a Leader, and Inc., It's Not Magic, You Can Have Amazing Executive Presence. And all these articles had very common sense, pragmatic recommendations that on how to quickly make some changes to develop executive presence. For example, show up to meetings on time or early. Wear well-tailored, well-fitted clothing. Be well-groomed. Sit up straight. Project your voice in a commanding, firm way. All practical, common sense, pragmatic advice for little things you can do, little adjustments you can make to have more executive presence. And I think they're important. But the top executive traits cited in these articles had to do with communication skills and the ability to communicate with confidence, authority, and poise. And I'll take a look at each one of these 3 here now. And so starting with confidence, when you speak with the good vocabulary, it works wonders for your confidence. And I explore this in a blog article on vocabularyzone.com titled Vocabulary and Confidence, Why People Fear Public Speaking More Than Death. And, we think about the concept of how people feel insecure when they're speaking, and they're nervous and they don't want to sound foolish or incoherent. So they dread public speaking, and it can just shatter your confidence. But once you start learning to speak with a higher level vocabulary, and the right word comes to mind when articulating your ideas, you start to build this confidence that compounds over time. And so as you build your vocabulary, you start to build your confidence, and in a way that you'll notice and other people will notice. And so it's interesting because I never really thought about confidence as being a benefit of improving your vocabulary. There's a lot of research out there for that lists different benefits for improving why you should improve your vocabulary. For example, there's studies that have shown a direct correlation between vocabulary and reading skills and comprehension. There's studies that have shown a direct a correlation between vocabulary and IQ score and intelligence and grades in school and income. But it wasn't until we received some emails from clients who said, hey, I just want to thank you for your training. It's been your vocabulary training. It's helped me so much in my career. And I feel much more confident speaking up in meetings and speaking in front of groups. And so that's when it registered that improving your vocabulary can actually help you with your confidence and your public speaking, and give you that extra boost of confidence so you speak up in a meeting and share your thoughts and ideas and recommendation, and you get heard. The second is authority. In order to speak with authority, you need to sound intelligent and informed. And so when you improve your vocabulary, not only will you sound more intelligent, you'll actually become more intelligent. As I mentioned before, there's studies that have shown a direct correlation between the size of a person's vocabulary and their IQ score. And regardless of whether or not you think IQ test is a valid measurement of intelligence, the neuroscience is conclusive. If you improve your vocabulary, you will become smarter. And we dig deep into the neuroscience in our article on vocabularyzone.com titled "Why Improving Your Vocabulary Instantly Makes You Smarter." And so becoming smarter, sounding smarter, becoming a person of authority is a benefit you will get by virtue of improving your vocabulary. And another benefit that's kind of a direct extension of authority is respect. And that's another one. There's not a scientific study that shows if you speak with a better vocabulary, you'll get more respect. There might be, but I haven't seen it. But we received emails from clients that said, hey, again, thank you so much for your training. It's helped me out immensely in my job. And I'm finding that people are respecting me, and they're actually listening to what I have to say and recognizing me for my ideas and contributions. I'm getting greater respect and acknowledgement at work. And so again, that's another benefit of, once you start speaking with more authority, people are going to respect you, they're going to acknowledge you, and you're going to get a lot more recognition at work. And so the final one is poise. And when you speak with confidence and authority, you will naturally have more poise, and you will exude executive presence in all of your communication. And so to kind of wrap up this conversation about executive presence, I'll ask you, how important is executive presence to your career? So there was a survey of CIOs conducted by Gartner Research, and what the survey found was that executive presence was second on the list of the top 20 leadership traits that make a difference. By comparison, technology skills ranked 12th. So let that sink in. So CIOs, the executives whose job, their primary responsibility is to ensure their company or organization is leveraging and utilizing all the latest advancements in technology, rank executive presence 10 traits higher than technology skills. So I will assert here that executive presence is critically important if you want to rise to the top of your field or industry, and especially if you want to get to the C-suite. And so, yes, executive presence is an extremely important trait and characteristic to develop. And so going back to executive vocabulary, as I mentioned before, that was the first vocabulary training program that I developed. And I named it in part because of these executives who impressed me early on in my career, and also based on two studies that found a direct correlation and link between the size of a person's vocabulary and their executive status and stature. And so I'll review these studies with you really quick. And so the first one was found that there's a direct correlation between vocabulary and rank on the corporate ladder. And in this study, what the researchers did is they gave a vocabulary test to managerial professionals at 39 different companies. So everyone who was a manager at one of these 39 companies took a vocabulary test. And here's what the results were. So lower level managers averaged a score of 89 points. Middle managers, middle management, averaged a score of 140 points, with executive management, executives leading the field with the highest average score of 236 points, showing that there's a direct correlation between the size of a person's vocabulary and their rank on the corporate ladder, with executives obviously being the top. The second study was given to 100 managerial professionals, all aspiring to become successful executives. And they were all given a vocabulary test. And then the results were 5 years later, every executive who scored in the upper 10%, top 10% of the vocabulary test went on to become a successful executive, while none of the managers who scored in the bottom 25% went on to become a successful executive. And so the findings from these studies are pretty clear. It's virtually impossible to become a high-level executive without a strong and expansive vocabulary. And so with vocabulary zone training, for a limited time, you'll have an opportunity to earn an executive vocabulary certification, where we certify that you have an executive level vocabulary. And this certification is online, and it uses blockchain technology. I'm not sure how familiar you are with blockchain technology, but blockchain technology forms the underpinnings of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. So this certification will be available for people to view online as long as you want them to be able to view it. And there will be a record of your completion of our intensive vocabulary training. And you can also list this on your LinkedIn profile under certifications, which is a nice way to highlight and show current and future employers and clients and colleagues that you know how to communicate at the highest level of success, and that's the executive level. And the reason I say it could be for a limited time is because this is it costs us some money, and it's a little arduous to manage all these different certifications. So we can't guarantee that it'll be available in the future. But for now, we are offering this certification, and like I mentioned before, once you complete the certification, that will be available, and that record will be online as long as you want that record to be out there. So indefinitely, most likely. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you appreciate how important developing executive presence is for your career success, and how, by virtue of continuing with your vocabulary zone training, you will be able to develop executive presence by increasing your confidence, being able to communicate with more authority and poise, and how all three of those will contribute to your firmer, more commanding executive presence. If you have any questions about our certification or other questions around executive presence and some of the other attributes that they reviewed in those articles, feel free to shoot me an email. Happy to discuss and respond to your communication. And so until next time, I appreciate you watching this presentation, and I will be in touch soon with another video training.